And almost nobody asks why. To most of the Western world, it is Iran. In poetry and diplomacy and the dreams of empires, it was called Persia. And most people assume, without ever quite deciding to assume it, that one name replaced the other. That at some point, something changed. Not once. Not in a single inscription, not in a royal decree, not in a prayer. And the name Iran, the one the West treats as new, as modern, as a political invention. So the question is not why the name changed. The question is why the West was using the wrong name for so long, and what it took to correct it. A long way back, the oldest known written languages of the Iranian plateau contain a word, Aryana Veja. Linguists and religious historians describe this as something like the expanse of the Aryans, a mythic homeland referenced in some of the earliest surviving Iranian religious literature. That is not a theory. That is the reconstruction that specialists in old Iranian languages have arrived at through comparative philology. By the time of the Achaemenid Empire, the dynasty that built Persepolis, that Cyrus the Great founded in the 6th century BCE, that stretched at its height from Egypt to the edges of India, those inscriptions still exist. You can see them. They were carved in stone. So where did Persia come from? One region within a much larger world. The Achaemenids originated in a province in the southwestern corner of the plateau. In Greek, the language of the historians and travelers who wrote about this civilization for European audiences, that became Persis. And from Persis, through Latin, through centuries of European scholarship and cartography and imperial correspondence, came the word that would define the entire country in the Western imagination, Persia. Herodotus, the Greek historian whose accounts, written in the 5th century BCE, became the primary lens through which ancient Iran entered European historical memory. His records are invaluable. They are also the records of an outsider, describing a civilization through the name of one of its constituent parts. The Persian Empire, as Herodotus described it, was a single ethnic and political entity in Greek perception. In reality, it was a vast multi-ethnic civilization in which the Parsa were one group among many. This is not a dispute. This is what the primary sources show. By the medieval period, the name Iran, in its evolved form, as Iran in Middle Persian, the Sasanian Empire, which ruled from the 3rd to the 7th century CE, and which produced some of the most sophisticated administrative and literary culture of the ancient world, officially used Iranshar, the realm of Iran, as the name of the state. It was not metaphorical. It was the name of the country on official documents in the language of the people who governed it. It persisted through the Islamic period. It persisted through the Safavid dynasty of the 16th and 17th centuries, which established Shia Islam as the state religion and created much of what we now recognize as Iranian national culture. It persisted through the Qajar dynasty of the 19th and early 20th centuries, even as European powers, Britain and Russia in particular. And so by the early 20th century, you had a genuine asymmetry, a country that its own people and government called Iran, being referred to in international diplomatic and journalistic contexts as Persia, by foreigners who had inherited a geographical vocabulary that was already 2,000 years out of date. That is the situation Reza Shah Pahlavi inherited when he came to power in 1925. Reza Shah is a figure historians assess with considerable complexity, and who also suppressed political opposition, curtailed press freedom, and ruled with increasing authoritarian force. These things are documented. In 1935, Reza Shah's government sent a diplomatic communique to foreign embassies. The request, as preserved in diplomatic correspondence of the period, was direct. When referring to this country in official communications, please use the name Iran, rather than Persia. This is the moment many people point to as the name change, but the framing requires scrutiny. The country had a name. It had always had a name. Whether Reza Shah's motivations were purely nationalistic or connected to the particular ideological currents of 1930s Europe, where pan-Aryan ideas had gained a disturbing political currency, some scholars have noted that the timing and the specific emphasis on the Aryan root of the name coincided with a period of Iranian diplomatic overtures toward Germany. The Iranian government's own position, then and since, is that the request was simply a correction of a long-standing historical inaccuracy. Neither is beyond scrutiny. A single document can mean more than one thing, depending on what surrounds it. Over the following decades, most of the world's governments and international institutions shifted to using Iran in official contexts. When Iran became a founding member of the United Nations in 1945, the name in the charter was Iran. And yet Persia did not disappear, it survived. In specific and revealing contexts, Persia is the name used in historical writing about ancient Iran. Farsi, as it is called domestically, known in English as Persian, and encompassing one of the great literary traditions of the world, from Rumi to Hafez to Ferdowsi. Persian carpets. Persian cuisine. In cultural and historical contexts, the older name held on, partly out of convention, partly out of genuine historical precision. What this creates is a linguistic situation that is genuinely unusual. A country with two names, each doing different work. Iran for the modern political entity, the nation-state, the contemporary society. Persia for the civilizational legacy, the cultural inheritance, the deep historical past. And the line between the two is not always clear, which is how you get journalists and politicians occasionally slipping between them in ways that confuse rather than clarify. There is one more layer to this, and it is the one that tends to surprise people the most. A term that carries almost unbearably heavy historical freight in the 20th century, associated in Western memory primarily with Nazi racial ideology, is, in its original context, simply the ancient self-designation of the Iranian and North Indian peoples. The Sanskrit word Arya and the Avestan area both appear in ancient texts as a marker of cultural and linguistic affiliation. The Nazis appropriated this term, distorted it, weaponized it, and permanently contaminated it in European cultural memory. But the contamination was applied to something that existed before it was misused. A genuine linguistic and historical category that scholars continue to work with carefully under strict academic definitions, precisely because abandoning the term entirely would require rewriting the field's own nomenclature in ways that create more confusion than they resolve. Iran, the name, means something like land of the Iranians or land of the Aryans in its oldest recoverable sense, where Aryan means the people of the Iranian plateau and their linguistic cousins to the east, not the fantasy race of a 20th century political movement. The name of their country is older than that distortion by at least 2,000 years. Understanding this does not require agreeing with any particular political position on Iran. So here is what the documented record actually shows, taken together. The name Iran is attested in forms recognizable as its ancestors from at least the Avestan period. It was in official administrative use by the Sasanian Empire in the 3rd century CE. It was used continuously by Iranians themselves across every major political transition. The 1935 diplomatic request did not invent the name. It corrected an error in international usage. A genuinely significant province, home to the first great dynasty, but still a part of a larger whole. It entered European usage through Herodotus and never left, becoming so embedded in Western geographical consciousness that even after the Iranian government formally requested a correction, the word persisted in cultural usage for decades, and in some contexts still persists today. Neither name is wrong exactly. They carry different histories, describe different things, and belong to different registers of discourse. Using Persia for ancient history is generally appropriate and reflects the Greek-derived tradition of Western historiography. According to the historical record, the older and less accurate habit that the Iranians were always calling it Iran turns out, once you follow it, to reframe the entire story. Not as modernization, not as a nationalist project, though it became one in the way it was communicated to the world. The name was never lost inside Iran. It was only lost in translation. They reflect the perspective of the translator. Which civilization was writing the map? Which language was considered the default? Whose documentation survived and was widely read? Roman scholarship survived. European cartography survived and became the cartography. That is not a conspiracy. It is how history works. The corrections take longer. 2,500 years longer in this case. Historians, diplomats, journalists, and heads of state have all done the same. But now you know what you are actually saying when you say it, and what the difference means. It is also, depending on how seriously you take the relationship between names and recognition, not entirely small at all. Because names are not just labels. They tell you who gets to define a place, who is remembered as the original narrator of a story. The people of the Iranian plateau have been narrating their own story in their own language, using their own name, for longer than most of the civilizations that taught the West to call it something else have existed. That is worth knowing, and it is almost always the detail that everyone overlooks.